But basically, I've spent most of my adult life in upstate New York, and most of my working life working with presenting organizations, whether they be for profit or for the nonprofit sector. And presenting organizations are just that. They feature live performance of music. To give you a kind of a timeline approach to my history, when I got out of college with my liberal arts degree, I did what many of the same people did. I opened up a bar. And the bar, I'm a musician from way back as well, and it became pretty obvious within the first year of business that the bar business was an excuse to have live music. And this was your classic smoke-filled room, 4x8 room, that it had the good fortune of being situated right in the elbow of the city's government center. So there were all kinds of people there. And we had this wonderfully diverse crowd that came 3 nights a week for jazz. And we did that for about 8 years. And Utica, in its heyday in the 40s and 50s, was a major stopover for significant talent as they routed from either Boston or New York straight across through Buffalo to Chicago. And they always stopped in Utica. And Utica at the time had double the population that it does now. And I thought, well, maybe you're going to take it easy for a while, but I don't know how to take it easy. So after spending a very convincing year and a half of not doing much of anything like the rest of us, I started looking around for opportunities in this field, and there were few and far between. Music still wasn't standing steady on its feet at that point, performance places, and it still isn't. So I started kind of like looking farther afield and came across this ad for a director at a place called the Mainstay in Rock Hall, Maryland, wherever the hell that is, and applied for the job, and here we are. And again, it's not, I can't take credit for it being an original plan because the skeleton is already here. This place does all different kinds of genres of music, and it does a lot of jazz, but it also does bluegrass. It has had some principal players in the folk music world playing right here. I was amazed at some of the people that have played on the stage. There's been world music, there's gospel music. It's just a matter of, well, first and foremost, we have to kind of still weather the COVID storm, because that's impacting on all presenting organizations. Our attendance figures are not what they were a few years ago. And that's understandable. We'll survive that. I know we will. We have friends that will help us survive that. But when I think in terms of what comes next, what can I put my thumbprint on, I think of striking a different balance between those genres. I know that there are people that I've approached upon first arriving that who I would ask, have you heard of the Mainstay? And they would say, oh, that jazz club. And it happens that there are a lot of friends of jazz here, but it does also kind of come with some identification that's not entirely fair. So what I'd like to do is strike a different cadence. So if we have jazz one week, we might do a bluegrass group the next week, and then maybe a Celtic group the next week, and then maybe a soul music review the next week. And that's a deliberate lead-in, Jim, to some other plans that I have, and that is I would very much like to do more collaborative concerts with people not only here at Ground Zero in Rock Hall, but with Chestertown groups. And I know that there's this impressive talent in all kinds of different areas. You might find them in black churches. You might find them in wherever. And I've talked to people who are pointing me in those directions. And what I'd like to do is to do at least 1 or 2 shows this first year where I'll invite guests to come down and perhaps have a band already in place to back them. And so that one performer is not the main headliner, but they're sharing a stage with maybe 5 or 6 guests. And on the basis of that, maybe it's the Motown Review. I don't know. But I expect to see people coming here that might otherwise think differently. I want to impress whoever's watching with the fact that we anticipate it being completed as soon as the springtime, we hope. And the point I'm trying to make is that it's not going to replace the Mainstay, because that's what's survived for 27 years. People love coming to this very strange little place. You know, this somebody told me that it was a video store at one point, I think. And they love the informal, comfortable nature, the fact that the stage is merely 6 feet away, the fact that most every performer that plays on that stage has a conversation with the audience. That can't be replaced, but it can be added to. It would be wonderful to have some open air shows, or shows that aren't necessarily following this strict schedule that the indoors might dictate. Very much looking forward to that. February, and the plan for February is something every weekend, every single weekend. And that includes, I don't think I gave any mention to, we do have, I believe, 4 or 5 classical presentations that will be scheduled throughout the year on Sunday afternoons, which is kind of a nice time for classical music followers. And I've seen one of those already, and it's just wonderful. Yeah.
Well, Matt, welcome.
Thank you. Good to be here.